Am I right there? No, 13. Sorry, the Three Waters report. And that Helen Beaumont come to the table. Thank you, Helen. Thank you for this novel. It's a beauty.
Good morning. Yeah, the report that's in front of you is the report to the end of June last year. So it's been a little delayed by things outside of our control, and some of it, of course, has been overtaken by more recent events and reports to council. In terms of looking back on the last year, we delivered approximately 85% of our capital program in Three Waters, and that was a little lower than we would have liked, but some of it was due to the COVID-19 shutdown and then the consequential impacts on that program. In terms of the operational expenditure, we did manage expenditure within budget, and again, some of that was actually the benefit of the shutdown, so there was some saving there in terms of the work program. There's a section in the report on central government reform that, of course, has been overtaken by the meeting of council yesterday, and for us now the focus is on delivery against the funding that we expect to receive, and advice back to council on participating in that reform program. So we will incorporate that into our bi-monthly report in the future to ensure that you're up to date with what is happening, and then there'll be other individual reports if there are specific issues that require advice and recommendations and decisions back from council. In terms of the Section 17A report, again, that report was received, debated, and decisions made at council yesterday. And there are next steps that we will be addressing and once again bringing back to this committee and other committees of council. One of the biggest ones is the procurement plan. One of the triggers for the Section 17A report, of course, was that the operations and maintenance contracts for Three Waters are coming to an end, and we need to put together a procurement plan for what happens next, and we need to do that in the context of the reform program and the timetables that central government has put on us. So those reports will come up to you and the options for how we go about that procurement. Another area of work that comes out of the detailed Section 17A is continuing on the climate change adaptation and mitigation in terms of what Three Waters can do. So there are of course, our wastewater treatment plant is one of the biggest contributors of greenhouse gases for the city and the city's footprint. So there are a number of projects underway to look at what we can do there. But we also want to take a much more programmed response, a more comprehensive response to what we do about infrastructure. So that's both embedded carbon in our infrastructure, but also the operational carbon that results from the infrastructure decisions that we make. And that needs to happen right back in the design phase. And that can be as simple as not building the infrastructure at all and going with, rather than engineered solutions, more of a blue-green approach to infrastructure. For example, not having a concrete pipe, but naturalising an area of stream to cope with stormwater and flooding. It saves a lot of carbon. And then the other part of the Section 17A is to look at the funding options for water and wastewater services, and that was also touched on in the annual plan process, and there was a resolution out of the annual plan for staff to go away and develop a funding options paper to feed into the long-term plan process. So that work is also underway, and that will come back to you. Moving to the Three Waters Bylaw review. So the Three Waters Bylaw review has been underway for some time, and you'll be pleased to know that it does touch on sediment and erosion control and what we can do through the stormwater part of that bylaw. So there is some work going on in there, as well as using the existing instruments that we have. But one of the things to note is that we are proposing to split that bylaw. So to have the water and wastewater bylaw as one, and then to have a separate bylaw for stormwater. And that's partly because of the complexity of the stormwater work and the requirements of the new comprehensive stormwater discharge consent, and partly so that we can manage the timing. So if we split it, we're very confident that we can bring the Two Waters bylaw to the Three Waters Infrastructure and Environment Committee in October. The stormwater one may be delayed, although we are still planning to bring that one in October as well. Then consult through November and over the summer period, and have that through hearings and back to council for adoption by April 2021. So that's the general program for that, and the recommendation is to split it. Moving to water safety plans. Water safety plans remains a very high priority for my unit, and you'll be pleased to know that rather than one part-time resource on water safety plans, we now have 2.5 full-time equivalents dedicated to water safety plans and the Water Supply Security Improvement Program. So that has enabled us to get much greater focus on it and move the works along. The other thing that's enormously helpful in that space, of course, is the acceleration of some of the capital works and improvements to our infrastructure with the approximately 40 million of funding that we expect to receive through the reform program. So the focus of that is on the water supply mains renewals and those deferred renewals. We're also looking at some wastewater mains that are in close proximity to some of our water supply wells and pump stations, and where those are in poor condition, they do pose a risk to the water supply. The program for reservoirs and pump stations will be accelerated, so improving those reservoirs, and also the Smart Water Network, which is largely focused at real-time monitoring and demonstrating the safety of our water supply. Other major projects that have been out for community consultation, of course, the Aparoa Wastewater, the final disposal of the treated effluent, closed this week, so closed 23rd of August, and that will go to hearings in October. So we'll keep reporting on that through this report. And of course, some of the new funding is also going to reducing inflow and infiltration in Aparoa and Devotional, so that we can right-size the treatment plants for both of those two settlements. Moving to stormwater and waterways, again, the big focus here is on ensuring compliance with our own comprehensive stormwater discharge consent and working on the stormwater management plan for the Heathcote catchment. And I'm delighted to say, no, he's gone, Dr. Clive Appleton will begin next week in a new role of stormwater implementation lead. So Clive will be leading the implementation of that work and bringing together the various threads of work right across council. And as you've already discussed this morning, we need to be integrated with the building consents unit and their inspections team, with the compliance unit and their enforcement actions, as well as our own planning, design and delivery in terms of the capital works that do this, and also our community work. So in terms of the community work, the Community Water Partnership is one aspect of that, and subsequent to signing off this report, we have also just extended some funding for, we have a member of staff working with schools, so working for I think about 20 hours a week, and working with schools on education and sort of practical enhancement programs around waterways across the city. And that's been funded by the Department of Conservation. Now that funding ran out about a month ago, and so we've extended it through the Three Waters unit for 3 months. And what we want to do is review that program and see whether or not we can integrate it with the Community Water Partnership and the education and community aspects of the compliance under the consent. So that's it's a small area of work, but has some potential to be quite helpful in that part of the consent. So that work is underway at the moment, and we'll be able to report back on it with our partners in parks.
So Helen, can you just repeat what Clive's new title is, please?
I think it's Consent Implementation Lead, Stormwater Consent
Something
Implementation Lead.
Okay.
We did We did have 3 or 4 goes at what the title was, so I'm hoping I remember the final version.
Oh, great, thank you.
He will lead and coordinate the work required to ensure that we comply with the conditions of that consent and contribute to improvements in the water quality in our city streams.
Yep, thank you.
And across Banks Peninsula, of course.
Yep. Well, it's our city.
One point I would just quickly add and post this report, but we've just had some very, very good results from some of our partners that we're working with in industry, and I'll call out Metal Corp basically, which is in the Hallsville River catchment. The reduction of sediment that's come off, reduction of heavy metals that have come off their property has been phenomenal, and they've done a really good job. Admittedly, they've invested, I believe they've invested with over 200,000, but they've worked in partnership with us, and that's part of, I think, some of the benefits that are coming through from the comprehensive stormwater consent and the additional funding that we've put in there. But I'm really pleased that some of the industries are partnering with us incredibly well, and I'm going to try and pull that results together in a Newsline article, because I do think it's some really good news, and basically it's a really good example of private companies working with council.
Yeah, and stepping up. And that the Christchurch West Melton Zone Committee has started an awards program, so if you could keep them connected with anything that we pick up on, hand it through and they'll put them through.
And I think that one is a very good example of the audit and education approach.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
an audit to identify where the biggest issues are and the highest priorities are, and education and getting alongside, particularly the commercial premises, is yielding great results. Not just for stormwater, but also for trade waste, and of course for drinking water safety, where we are requiring a much higher standard of backflow prevention across our network. So we do need that audit, education, and get alongside and support particularly the commercial operations across the city.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, have you finished your speaking to your report, Helen? Is there anything
Yes,
else?
thank you.
Yeah. And I've got Aaron first, and then Anne, and then Jimmy.
Yeah, just on Dave's point, do we put forward companies like that for awards, like is there national awards, or can we give them like a civic award, or?
Well, just see the zone
like
committee's running
Or
awards.
even in the Champion Canterbury Awards, there should be something along these lines.
And certainly I'm going to look at that. If there was a business environmental award, they would be someone we could nominate to put forward. The results have only come across my desk in the last fortnight, so we are thinking about where we could get the maximum publicity for the good stuff that they've done. Yes, so certainly awards would be a good way to go.
Yeah, each year there's ones that come up like Isaacs and I know Tate's when they did their entire site redevelopment. There's a number of them come up, and it should be supported and encouraged.
Yeah, or do we partner with the zone committee and help them deliver their awards rather than reinventing?
This is obviously the Hallsville Selwyn one rather than the West Melton.
True.
I think it needs to be larger. Even the conversation with the Champion Canterbury Awards, like if we want to be an environmentally sustainable city,
Yep.
should be there where someone picks it up, takes away the big one each year in front of all the other businesses, because that'll make others look at their game.
That's good. Anne, and then Jimmy.
So exactly the same thing, because I was thinking about the gold star on the recycling things and thinking something similar. So I think it's a really great idea, and I think we should really acknowledge those industries that are doing such a good job. It's fantastic. So I had a couple of questions, Helen, about you mentioned Clive's work in bringing together the compliance team, sort of getting that connection happening. So I don't know if you saw the email come through from Matt Smith about his concerns that groundwater, when construction's happening, there doesn't seem to be any sort of protection when they hit groundwater and all the rest of it. So I've sent that through to the Office of the CE just to get a response. But would that be the kind of situation that Clive would look to kind of, improving so that there is that connection between the different...
I don't know, because I haven't seen the email.
No.
Sorry.
Okay.
There are already fundamental rules in the district plan around earthworks and depth of cut
Yes.
and volume of material removed
Yeah.
that trigger consent requirements, and I don't know if it's about that or what it is.
It's about, it seems to be sort of situations where, say, a subdivision, people are working on a subdivision and they're hitting groundwater, and there doesn't seem to be any assessment that's been done at that time. So, and it's about working with compliance team as well as, you know, other teams.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
certainly happy to have a look at it
Yeah.
alongside the consenting and compliance people.
That would be great.
Um,
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll come to you, Jimmy, but I was going to actually bring that up too under your comments on page 89, where you work over the last 2 months has included detailed analysis and drafting bylaws provisions, including for erosion and sediment control during earthworks, protection of source water, and you've put aerial application of chemicals. I was wondering, is that the only thing we're looking at to protect our source water?
No, that's just one example.
And so,
And that's a particularly important one on Banks Peninsula, where we've got farmland surrounding some of our water catchment areas.
right, and so the issue that Anne's talking about that's been raised through an email today is during construction or developments that the groundwater is being exposed to contaminants. So is that it's a district plan RMA issue, but it's not covered in our bylaws?
So it's not about not being covered. It's about ensuring that. So there are rules in the district plan,
Yeah.
but it's making sure that we have complementary provisions in our stormwater bylaw to ensure that we comply with our own consent.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's
So-
some quite detailed work being done there to make sure that everything's joining up. So what's happened with the comprehensive consent and with the changes to the Land and Water Regional Plan, this council has picked up responsibilities that were previously carried out by Environment Canterbury. And so we need to step up in terms of our resource and our capability to deliver on that. And there's some work going on in that space.
Right.
And that will continue. So there's a stepwise process for the implementation of this, working with Environment Canterbury.
Right. And so do we have sufficient resource?
That's what, I can't answer that question yes or no, sorry. That's what the program of work working with Environment Canterbury is, to ensure that we have sufficient resource and the appropriately skilled resource.
Yeah, because when we're getting letters like this saying that...
Yeah, I'm sorry, I really can't comment on that, and
you haven't seen
I'd rather take that offline until I've seen the letter, and then I can provide a proper reply.
Yeah.
Let's do that. That's great.
If you could do that, that would be fantastic, through the Office of the CE maybe, and send it to everybody. That would be
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah, well, it'll be either us or consenting
Or
and
somebody.
compliance or
Yeah.
enforcement,
Whoever.
depending on what it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jimmy.
Okay, thank you. Regarding to the water safety plan, in particular emphasize the audit, those that are kind of the drinking water assess. I just want to know what's the time frame for those temporary coordination will be removed.
So the time
Yes.
frame for the water safety plan for is let me find the page for
You
you.
mentioned is one still open.
So it's on
By the
it's on
auditor.
page 92.
Page 91.
So the water safety plan for Akaroa and Takamatua is going to be submitted in September 2020,
Yes.
and then the one for Wainui in November, and the one for the city, so for Christchurch City and the Littleton Harbour Basin settlements, is December 2020. So until that water safety plan is submitted and approved, we will not be able to remove the temporary chlorination.
Okay, but how about the other area? It's not in this area, not the Littleton, not the Central City. The other area at the moment still temporary coordination pointed to
That's right.
those.
That will
still.
stay
Yes.
until the new water safety plan is approved.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yanni.
So we have to do those little settlements. We have to do the water safety plans for those before we can take chlorine out in the city.
We have a timetable for doing them, and the reason for the Akaroa and Takamatua one going first is that was the first one submitted in the last round. So we submitted it and we had comments back, and then we withdrew it formally, and now we are getting ready to submit it again. So that'll be the next one that is ready.
Right.
We're working on all of them in parallel.
So I think that's
So just
Yanni's
at a high
question, does it have
level-
to be all or none, you know? You can't
Like-
have one piece.
Like, so when do we think best case scenario we can get chlorine out of our water?
That depends on whether or not the water safety plan for the city, which will be submitted in December, is approved.
And why is it taking so much longer than what, you know, we sort of, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to understand, like, why is the water safety plan taking so long? It was almost a year ago that we submitted it before Christmas and we were hopeful, and I know it wasn't approved, but why does it take another year?
Not only was it not approved, but there were a large number of recommendations and non-conformances that require an enormous amount of work.
So they're all explained in the report, Yanni, the work that we're doing or staff
yeah,
are
so
doing.
that work is underway, and also it has taken us some time to get the appropriate people resources on board as well to do that work. So work is underway, and I think for I used an analogy talking about the water safety plan with someone a few weeks ago that it used to be like getting a warrant of fitness for your car. Now it seems to be like getting a warrant of fitness for a Boeing 737.
Yeah.
The bar has moved so far, I'm not sure we can even see it, let alone know how much it takes to get over it.
So
It's an enormous
with the new legislation,
change.
there is an exemption regime for residual disinfectant.
That is a proposed bill that has been introduced to Parliament. It
It's
is
still
not legislation yet. So there's a bill before Parliament as part of Taumata Arawai.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
that
you'd still need
talks
your,
about an exemption regime.
you'd
But we'd
still
still
need
need
your
a
water
water
safety
safety
plan approved.
Plan.
Yes, you still
Yeah.
need a water safety
Yeah.
plan approved. And in fact, it looks from the bill as though the water safety plan is the mechanism for the
Yeah,
exemption.
yeah,
Right.
that's key.
So, I mean, I think it would be good. I just looked online. We haven't put an update out since the 22nd of April on the water supply around the chlorination. Are we able to put some information out in simple terms to the community over what's being done, what the reasons for the delay, and what our new sort of aims are? Because I mean,
The
I
new
just think,
timetable?
yeah, I just think
Yep, we can do that.
That'd
we've
be
just
good.
kind of
So update
stopped
the-
communicating
update the
around
website,
it, and it
yeah.
would be quite.
And there's
quite
probably
good.
reasons for that, Yanni.
So
There's
there was
some stuff
there was
going on.
a newsletter to our water supply mailing list this week, but that was mostly on the water reform. But certainly, yes, we can do one on the water safety plans and the timetable.
Well, and maybe the website just needs
Update
updating.
the
Maybe it doesn't
website,
have the
that'd be
latest
good.
updates.
The
But
website in terms of the map and where the chlorine levels, what the chlorine levels are at each pump station.
I think Yanni's wanting
it's
the
just
that's updated all
the
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 water
milestones
supply
we have to
updates.
achieve to get the water safety
Yeah.
plan is probably what you're after on
Yeah.
there, isn't
We
it?
can do that.
And can I just ask, secondly, on the consenting. So we've been told that there could be a trigger for a no surprises. This is on page 6 of 38. That there's 5 individual condition grades related to inadequate erosion sediment control. Currently worked through no surprises policy and has potential result in enforcement action. Can someone just explain like what that is? And like, I guess, you know, with Living Earth, which is mentioned there, which is great, we've had a lot of detailed information about what we're doing, but with this erosion stuff and sediment, I just had no idea. So
Yes, so we've got a memorandum on exactly this case drafted, and it's going to David Adamson today to be signed off,
Right.
and it'll come out to councillors this week.
so this is
An
our
update on exactly this.
our resource consents and our
It is
whatever we're doing
One
is,
of our resource consents, yes,
is under risk in terms of not complying.
that's correct. And we'll get a memo to you this week on that.
Thanks, Helen.
So
That'd be
it
good.
is drafted, and it'll be with David today for sign
Okay.
off.
And I just wondered whether we could put a resolution, because there's no reference to the integrated water strategy in here, and you know it seems kind of a bit weird. So could we just maybe? I know you've said you're going to report on that now regularly. So could we just put a resolution to sort of note that? Would that be okay? Or-
How do you want, what's the wording?
So what we said is part of the meeting yesterday
yeah.
around the water reform. Yes, so the integrated water strategy has those 3 main implementation plans, and the water supply implementation plan is in draft, and we'll bring it to the October meeting of Three Waters infrastructure and environment. So at the moment, we're just working through that draft with the Runanga, and particularly to incorporate some of their suggestions around looking at the needs of small communities and the options for small communities.
Yeah.
And I haven't confirmed exactly what all of the issues are, but I think some of the issues are the areas where we have zoned in the district plan for Papakoinga housing, but those areas are not serviced.
Yep.
So we need to look at those issues as well. So it's not just current settlements, but also future development possibilities.
Yep.
So that work needs to be integrated into the water supply plan, and we're working with Shane and the Runanga chairs to get that through, and then the draft will come up to Three Waters
I guess
infrastructure.
there was a lot of stuff in the integrated strategy that wasn't so much about spending money, but was around communication, awareness, engagement, forums, etc. And I just don't have any visibility of where that's been picked up. Is that going to be picked up in the implementation planning, or is that going to be sort of above that?
So we have, because the integrated water strategy is such a high level strategy and quite broad, we're doing two things. We're doing the formal implementation plans for water supply and wastewater and surface water, stormwater, but we're also going to put together a matrix across all of the 4 goals and the associated objectives, and develop some measures that we can report on regularly, so we can pull the whole thing together.
Okay.
Because, as you say, there's so much that's going on. We work with the zone committees, we work with Environment Canterbury through the Water Issues Management Group, we work with the Canterbury Mayoral Forum on broader issues, and we need an overview of how all of this is affecting progress towards our ultimate goals, and most of those are around improvements in surface water, improvements in security of supply, improvements in environmental performance of our various wastewater systems. So yes, we do need to have something that reports on, are we, with all of these areas of activity, are we actually making progress towards the goals that have been set out in there?
But also, I guess what came through in the hearing, that the community felt that water was such an important issue, but there lacked a kind of ongoing engagement. Now, you've talked about engaging with the Papatuku Runanga, which is great, but there was also a kind of desire, I think, for an ongoing series of explaining to the community workshops or forums around what we're doing in the water space, because people just don't feel that they can comprehend it, because we don't, we've obviously got lots going on.
So we've been working with Environment Canterbury on the refresh of the zone committees and the refresh of the Canterbury Water Management Strategy, and we do see the zone committees as key to that. And as part of that, there is a recommendation that in terms of Three Waters and my area of work, that we have a regular representation at the Christchurch West Melton Zone Committee, and we have agreed to do that. And in fact, I'm presenting to the Zone Committee on Thursday on the Three Waters work, just an overview of what we do. And we have undertaken to attend those committee meetings and work much more closely with those committees in terms of the community outreach. How all of that exactly stitches together is a job for Dr. Appleton, and the schools partnership that I talked about before is a part of that puzzle as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
some good stuff going on. Helen, I've got a question about the reticulation renewals on page 107. And so it's a $171 million project, and it will be completed by financial year 22. Do you foresee that the reticulation network will be the next cab off the rank in the requirements for the water safety plan? And will this project get us there?
So if we come back to the water safety plan and the potential exemption regime, one of the things that was flagged, if you like, in the review that we did a couple of years back, looking at systems in Europe, one of the indicators of whether or not your network has sufficient integrity to operate without residual disinfection is the leakage rate. And the leakage rate in our network has been increasing year on year since the skirt repairs were completed.
Yep.
And this program is directly aimed at improving that. So as we follow up with the backlog of reticulation renewals, the mains renewals and water supply, we will improve the performance of the network in terms of leakage. But that's not the only aspect of it. It's also associated with the smart water monitoring, because the smart water monitoring is not just water quality, it's also the pressure and flow of water and the water balance for the network, which will help us more precisely locate major leaks and fix them. And that does two things: it reduces the leakage in the network, and it also reduces the likelihood of a break and an outage and an interruption to service, because we also have a higher level of interruptions to service in our network than we would like. And then there's another focused leak detection program across the city that we want to increase resourcing into and follow up repairs. So it's not just this on its own, but it's this in association with some of the other work
but
that we're doing.
this is a massive project.
This is 78 odd projects. So this is a program of work for water supply renewals. Yes.
And will that be like most of the work that needs to be done in the water supply renewals?
It's what's on budget at the moment.
Right.
How much needs to be done is another question entirely.
Right. Okay, thanks for that. Mike?
Thank you. Just got a question, page 105 on our agenda, 21 on yours, around the new water supply wells. And I noted in there that the Belfast well is planned to be completed this month. So I'm just wondering if that has been done, and whether the other two that are due in the next couple of months, Preston's and Grasmere, are also on track for those target dates.
I have to come back to you on that, sorry. So Belfast, Preston's
And Grasmere.
That's great. And when you come back, can you just include the whole committee in that response, please, Helen?
Certainly.
Yeah. Melanie, did you have a question?
Yeah, with the all the work to get rid of the chlorine, because I'm starting to get a bit confused about what we actually need to do to get to there. So it's the water safety plan, and it was lifting the wellheads initially. So do we need to fix the entire system to get to no chlorine, or is it just the plan that's important?
Thanks.
And having a plan of how we're going to get there.
It's both. So so yes, the wellheads were the initial trigger for the temporary chlorine, and then we were asked to revise our water safety plan in the context of the new framework for water safety plans.
Yeah.
When we revised our water safety plans, the issue of backflow and the condition of the reservoirs tipped over into an unacceptable risk. Previously, those risks were assessed
So yeah, we've talked
and
about
regarded as acceptable. Yeah, so we have to do the work to resolve those to meet the requirements of the revised water safety plan, and have that revised water safety plan approved before we can remove the residual chlorine.
But like what we've just been talking about with reticulation, all that doesn't need to be done.
I can't answer that question.
It
because
probably will be, Melanie.
I don't know in what's in the minds of the assessors when they look at that water safety plan.
But as Helen says, the bar has been raised so incredibly high, and it will be high to qualify for an exemption as well. We've often been quoted the Dutch model or the Netherlands, and their bar is so high to have no chlorine. But you know,
But it's also the smart water network. So the smart water network, so if we have real-time pressure monitoring, flow monitoring, water quality monitoring, we will know if there's any change, which is so there's a bit of a mantra about change precedes contamination. So if there's a leak or ingress of water, or a loss of pressure or something like that, then we will detect that and we can immediately respond to that. So that's another barrier, if you like, that real-time monitoring and assurance of the quality of the water.
So with what Yanni asked about putting stuff on our website, I think we have to be exceedingly, and you will be, but careful about exactly what you put. Like if you're going to put a date for when we're going to put in our water safety plan for Christchurch Littleton, for instance, you don't want to say, I'd be a bit woolly about it, although I guess it's in here, just
It is
in
in
case.
here, yes.
To give
Hey, I do
people's hopes
apologise. Catherine, have you got any questions? I've been ignoring you. No, okay. Anyone else got any questions? Oh, Catherine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I haven't been ignoring you. I did kind of forget a little bit because I haven't chaired the meeting. You okay?
No questions from me. Thank you for it.
Great. Anybody else got any? And welcome, Leanne.
Just coming back to your question, Melanie, I think it's really important. Helen made the comment that we're not sure where that bar sits. We will certainly, as we put in our water safety plans, put in our monitoring results showing why we believe the risk is acceptable to take it out. But Helen can't read the minds of the regulators, and the regulators aren't giving us a very clear picture of where that bar is at this point in time. And I do think that maybe with the new water regulator bill going through, and it's admittedly only gone through the first reading, they may also be a little bit wary on that, would be one of the things I'd say. So we're working with them. We are sharing as much information, and we are sharing particularly around why we think we've got a low risk. So, but we can't enforce what they decide, if that makes sense, or we can't, yeah.
Right.
So that's why Helen's a little bit difficult to commit.
So, Anne?
Yes, along those lines,
Any
thanks, Dave. Just wondering, when you're saying we submit them probably the end of this year, the
Yes.
water safety plans. Any idea how long it will be before we get any kind of reaction from them, response?
Last time it took 3 months. I don't anticipate it'll take that long this time, because what we're doing is addressing their recommendations.
Yeah. And Mike?
Thanks. So when we submit these water safety plans, because we did it before and they came back saying, look, no, this fails. When we resubmit it, is it to different people or is it the same people? Because is it just someone else's opinion of where we need to improve, and every time we may get someone different who has a totally different opinion on what we need to do?
Usually it's to the same drinking water assessor, and however, the water safety plan for the city, as you know, went to a panel of 4 drinking water assessors and 1 lead assessor, but my understanding is that it will go to one of the members of that panel for assessment for the second round, for the city's one.
Okay. It just seems it'd be a little bit disappointing if we're doing all this work after we've been given information for it to go back and then say, oh, actually, no, we've changed our mind, we want you to do this as well. And it pushes
My
it
understanding it would be the same assessor, or one of the same assessors, yes.
Right. So, Anne, have you got some?
Sorry. Just back to the CCC Newsline and update on chlorination. This is a comms question really, but the information there is actually from last year. So if we could get a CCC Newsline, I know we talked about it earlier, but specifically on where we're at with chlorination, it would be useful for people to be able to see. And also, just, with all the stuff we're talking about with water and the MOU and all the rest of it, would it be appropriate for comms, do they have a package around this, in terms of because there's a lot of concern about the MOU is going towards privatisation and all the rest of it. Is comms really actively involved in that whole sort of, as someone said before, just all the water stuff kind of clear messaging?
Yes.
Great. Okay, thanks.
All right, so if there's no more questions, can I have a mover for Helen's fabulous report? Anne, seconded Sarah. Sorry, Jimmy, I just saw you a bit late. Is there any discussion or debate or comment on that? Jimmy?
Okay, thank you for the staff regarding to this kind of a comprehensive report. It's pretty good. But I'm only concerned how to strengthen the communication with the public community, because we are all aware regarding to those temporary coordination will be removed. Probably 1 year ago, and we postpone. It looks like, but we have to comply with all those drinking water assessors, to meet their assessment, meet their needs. That's crucial. But how to strengthen communication? It's a challenge for us. Otherwise, this one of our, our ratepayer and our resident community, the satisfaction, the one key issue. whether it's possible, if like a staff mentioned earlier, you confirm 3 months, after 3 months, all those one will be approved by the assessors, whether we can put on the news line, now on just three months, and all those temporary, the coordination will be removed to give the kind of public community more confidence, and so give the council more confidence. It's my particular concern. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy, and I think we all agree with that. It is complex though, and we've got, you know, a lot to convey, so it's how we do that. Did you want to say something? Okay. So we've got not just water supply, wastewater, stormwater, surface water, groundwater and flood management all in this report, and we can see the multi-million dollars that we're spending on all of these things. I mean, look at 171 million on the reticulation, all those flood basins that we've done to clean up prevent the flooding in the Heathcote, or at least ease it, and also that helps to prevent sedimentation as well. So I don't want to hear comments that we're not doing enough. We can always do more, but I really commend the team, the council team, on everything that we are doing to fix these, as I said before, retrospective problems that are so challenging. So, you know, thank you for your report, Helen. I think it's brilliant. When I first looked at it, I thought, oh, heck, this is incredibly complex and long. But I think, you know, it's better to have this information and we can ask you questions on it, which we have done today. So it's a very good report. Thank you. So I'll move that report. Oh, has it been moved and seconded? It has, hasn't it? Yeah. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. 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 Opposed? That's carried. Can I suggest we take 10 minutes now, perhaps come back at 11:15?